Well, joining me tonight on Talking Pints is Stewart Jackson, former Conservative Member of Parliament and very much David Davis's right-hand man when he was Brexit Secretary, when there was the most enormous bust-up that took place at Chequers. And we'll get into all of that. Stewart, welcome to Talking Pints. Very good to see you here.
Good evening, Nigel.
Now, I'm struck by something. Hundreds of thousands of people in this country want to become MPs. It's a big ambition. Some people hold it from when they're very young. Others decide in later life they want to get involved. Whether the motives of everybody are the correct ones is another debate. But lots and lots of people want to be an MP. You became an MP in 2005. You were in the House of Commons for 12 years. Had you always wanted to be one?
Pretty much from when I was a teenager.
Right.
I was always interested in politics, loved to debate and discuss politics, was always very interested in British history, world history, travel, and it seemed to me that it was the way I wanted to go in my career. Obviously, I did have a proper job.
Did you?
Before.
Oh, that's
I had two
unusual.
proper jobs,
That's unusual.
actually.
What did you do?
I was in banking for a while,
Yeah.
straight from university, and then I became HR manager, and then I was elected to Parliament. So I didn't take that normal Oxford special advisor MP,
Which so many have done.
role.
Yeah, which so many have done.
Which is a bit of a caricature, but certainly is the case that some of our most successful politicians did take that route.
Yeah, too many in my view. And you know, climbing mountains is very exciting, and you went through all the procedures and the selection processes, and boom, 2005, you're a Member of Parliament. Once you got to the top, what was it like?
Well, it's fantastic. The day that you take your seat on the green benches, the day that you're given the envelope by the returning officer to present to the policeman at the gate, at St Stephen's Gate, and you present your credentials is wonderful. And I remember on the day of my election, or certainly the week, I went into the House of Commons library and I wrote a thank you note to my parents for the encouragement and support they'd given me through the years. And it is quite an emotional moment. And I would say to people that it's a great honour and privilege to be a Member of Parliament, but it's also a mark of great resilience. You have to be able to take the knockbacks and the personal slights.
Yeah.
I mean, I did 32 interviews in 25 seats before I got my constituency in Peterborough.
Yeah.
And I fought it first, lost it, came back and won, and was elected 3 times. It's certainly about determination, self-confidence and resilience.
So you were there, you got the seat. Michael Howard was the leader when you won, but by 2010, we had a Prime Minister with slightly different interpretation of conservatism to Stewart Jackson. And it seems to me, Stewart, you spent more years in Parliament fighting your own side than you did the other side.
Well, I certainly
because you were an early Brexiteer, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. And in fact, 10 years ago next month was the epoch-making vote, which was a backbench vote. It was a debate which was meaningless in legislative terms. For us to have a referendum.
I remember it well.
An all-out, in-out referendum, and 81 Conservatives campaigned for that. And my whip said, if you support this, you have to leave being a parliamentary private secretary. And I thought that it was better to stick by my principles. And ultimately, 10 years on, I was right, and the party followed me.
Yeah.
And the country voted.
No, the 81 of you said what you said, and Cameron ignored it, and then UKIP suddenly, in the polls, started going to the races, and the pressure came on, and then he relented. So, no, I mean, that obviously mattered to you a lot. But before we get on to Brexit, which from what I can see has been pretty much the biggest motivation in your political career, like mine, just in different parties. 2017 comes along, Theresa May calls the election, underperforms quite dramatically, and I guess you're one of the casualties. How does it, you know, you've been there for 12 years, many would have expected you to be there for another 12 years after that, or longer, and you've lost. How did it feel losing?
Well, it's a kick in the guts. You know, you arrive at midnight as a local personality, a local VIP, and then you leave in some obscure fire exit as a has-been, and everyone's interviewing your successor. And politics is, above all, it's a wonderful calling. It's a great way to pursue your life if you want to make change in this country. But it is brutal. It's first and foremost a very social Darwinist, brutal
It's a rough
appalling. It's a rough... You, of all people, know how...
Yeah, oh, I know how horrible it can
be.
be.
So we were blindsided. I thought I would be comfortably re-elected, but the minute the party came out with that crazy social care policy, and there was no consultation, and there was... I think the British people felt in their bones that Theresa May was taking them for granted, fancied having a big majority, went back on what she'd previously said in not having an early election, and I think we were punished. People then didn't know how bad Jeremy Corbyn was.
We'll come back to Theresa May in a moment, I think, in this conversation. Peterborough was renowned, has been renowned, for postal vote fraud.
Sadly, yes.
People have gone to prison.
Yeah.
It's happened in the centre of Peterborough. It's happened in one particular community.
Yeah.
Labour have been the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
The guy that went to prison for organising it all was back in the by-election in 2019, organising Labour activity. I got involved in a legal action there after that by-election in 19. Did you feel, and this is quite relevant because this is what Donald Trump's saying at the moment, did you feel robbed by postal votes?
Well, I wouldn't put myself in the same category as Donald Trump.
Similar complaint, though, if that's what you're making.
I would say if Donald Trump had slightly changed his tone a few weeks before the election, he probably would have won in Michigan and Virginia and these places, and would be the president. I mean, there is a specific issue in Peterborough. Way back 6 years ago, in 2015, after I was elected, I did actually have a debate in Parliament saying we've got to deal with what you call community postal voting.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, to give them their due, this government has taken action, but it's nowhere near enough. And I think that if what was happening to people called Barbara and Jilly in Guildford was happening to them, what is now happening to people called Begum and Mrs Mohammed in central Peterborough, which is community voting being abused, women...
And they're intimidated, aren't they?
Young women intimidated into giving up their votes through community postal voting, which is completely wrong. Then I think there would be an outcry. But, you know, it's an issue that the government has to take note of.
The French have got this right. The French, you know, if you're disabled or you're 97 in a wheelchair or whatever it is, you can apply for a postal vote. You have to have a reason, and about 3% of the French turnout is voting by post. And now, in some of our inner cities, it's the majority of votes cast in certain constituencies.
Well, people forget that modern postal votes on demand has really only existed about 10 or 12 years.
It was the Blair government.
It was the Blair government.
Yep.
In fact, the 2001 election, the 97, the 92 elections were all on the old regime, where you had to have a really good reason to vote by post. You were working away, you were sick. This community postal voting is open.
Yeah. And also, you get the postal vote 3 weeks before the election. You've not even had the debate proper. Stuart, I feel very strongly on that too.
We need to do more.
That needs to be reformed.
It's not fair to any community if votes have been stolen and there is corruption.
But oddly, losing your seat, and you've been PPS before and you've done jobs like that, you know, junior, or the most junior jobs on the rung. But losing that seat actually put you in a very much more interesting position, didn't it? You joined up with David Davis, who was the Brexit secretary.
Didn't feel like that on June the 9th.
No, but then, you know, one door closes, another door opens, and it did for you.
Yeah.
And you were in a really very, very important position. You know, you're there with David Davis, you're the chief of staff to the man who's been given the job of negotiating a deal on Brexit. And Chequers comes along. Chequers comes along. So David Davis goes to Chequers. Where were you?
Well, I wasn't at Chequers. I was sort of watching from the sidelines because, although I was his chief of staff, he took his policy special advisor, who's now in the private sector. But we knew on the Tuesday before the Saturday, or before the Friday, that he was not going to tolerate this capitulation that was being proposed, principally by Philip Hammond, by David Lidington, by Theresa May and others.
And Ollie Robbins?
And, well, Ollie Robbins was in a slightly different position then, but, I mean, he had started out as being a sort of head honcho in the Brexit department. He then was in a different position in the Cabinet Office. But essentially, both Boris Johnson and David Davis had been squeezed out, kept in the dark, and this was presented to them, this sort of pseudo-Brexit, as a fait accompli. And Davis knew right from then. I mean, he blocked this way back in February and said, this is not Brexit and I'm not going to put up with it.
Yeah.
And they went round him. So by the time we got to July, Brexit was bounced on him.
So David Davis, principled man?
Yeah, he was principled because he wasn't lobbying, he wasn't undermining the Prime Minister. But when he saw the degree of subterfuge and, frankly, betrayal by the May administration of Brexit, I mean, we would effectively be locked into the European Union legal regime ad infinitum, and he could not countenance that. And to be honest, the reason Boris is Prime Minister is because of David Davis to a certain extent, because David Davis's resignation gave Boris the space and the political capital to resign.
Yeah, Boris wouldn't have resigned on his own, I don't think.
I think it will be unlikely, but it turned out for the best. Obviously, Boris kept his powder dry and he built a campaign, and obviously it was successful by the summer of 2019.
And those of us that were on the Brexit side, or those that believe in democracy, were horrified by the antics of the John Bercows and the Remainas, the Ramonas. But just give us your view. Where does Theresa May fit into this whole story? How do you assess her premiership, and in particular that Brexit deal that she put?
I believe she's very similar to she's analogous to Gordon Brown. He was never really tested. He came into office in the middle of a parliament. He wasn't really tested in a proper leadership contest. And it was the same with her. People did truly believe that she was respectful of the mandate to deliver a proper, authentic Brexit, i.e. a country which was a parliamentary, sovereign democracy and independent from the fiat of the European Union. And it was clear that because of the pressure from big business, from the Treasury and others, that she had reneged on that effectively by the beginning of 2018 and was trying to keep us effectively in the customs union and, to a certain extent, the
So it was betrayal?
I think it was a betrayal because it didn't seem that by the end of 2018 she was really in the business of delivering an authentic Brexit. And she reaped what she sowed, really, because at the end of the day she suffered the biggest, most catastrophic parliamentary vote defeat in British history. And 3 months later she was gone.
Yes. I enjoyed that.
Well,
I enjoyed the European elections very much indeed.
Well, actually, I think I might say she'd indicated she was going before the European elections.
No.
Or thereabouts.
No, she resigned. It was interesting. The vote took place and she resigned before the count was in, which was the way that she did it. But
you know better than I.
So, you believed in this as strongly as I believed in this.
I did. And
there's no question about that, and still do. Was Boris's deal much better? And how do you see Brexit now?
Boris's deal was better because we did legally leave the European Union. We brought back those sovereign powers. Have there been compromises which I would rather then not have been? Yes, the Northern Ireland Protocol is very difficult to sell to a Brexiteer.
Yeah.
We've seen the de facto colonisation of a part of the United Kingdom,
yeah, we have.
Northern Ireland, by the European Union for their own very cynical reasons. I always said, and I've written it in several places, that their strategic objective is always to cause as much difficulty for Brexit for the UK and for us to not have a strategic advantage economically over the European Union. And they'll continue to do that, and we're naive if we believe anything else. So
totally.
It's better than what could have been, which under let's be honest, if Corbyn had signed up to the May deal to have a second referendum vote, it would have been a catastrophe. It would have split the Tory party and split the country.
Oh, it would have done.
So we're better than we could have been.
Yeah, no, I think I take that view too. And finally, Stewart, you're quite pugilistic, aren't you? You know, on Twitter, you don't, is that sort of back away from having a punch-up? You, in error, I'm sure, once called somebody a thick chav, and you've had a few fisticuffs on Twitter. What's the next big fight in Stewart Jackson's life?
Well, I'm less pugilistic than I used to be. I think now I'm a retired, recovering politician, like you, Nigel. I'm in business now, so I think you need to be a bit more congenial in business, and that's all to the good. I think I'll continue to be a Conservative. I think that this country needs a Conservative government. I think a lot of criticism has been attracted to the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. I think Brexit and COVID have been huge generational challenges, and I don't think he's done too badly. So let's see what happens in the next chapter.
Thank you for joining us. That was Stewart Jackson, somebody who stood by his political principles. Good for him.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.